Hello and welcome back to the Sky and the Shy podcast. I'm your host, Edwin Garcia, and on today's episode, we're talking about the final two games of the regular season the Sky have just completed. We're going to talk about the end of the regular season and how the regular season concluded, and we're going to preview the playoff matchup, first round single elimination game, Chicago Sky versus the Dallas Wings. So let's get into it. On Friday, September 17th, the Aces blew out the Chicago Sky 103-70. The team came out and was really disappointing. It felt like they were never really in the game because, well, honestly, they never were really in the game. They lost every single quarter. They never were able to really get into this game, and it was pretty much over from the first quarter on. One of the few highlights I think was Candace Parker and the team kind of having a players only huddle up midway through the game. It seemed like they were there trying to kind of build some camaraderie and kind of get their heads in the right space, and they were definitely playing a poor game. And even though the huddle didn't actually impact the result and didn't actually change anything, I think it was a good message to say, hey, like we're heading down the stretch here. We're having a bad game. Let's try to refocus here and remember, what's important, what matters. Obviously, I don't know all the details of all the wording and everything that was said there, but it was pretty clear that it was the team trying to kind of, rally itself together and to stay focused on what the goal was. So I did like that. Obviously, don't like the blowout. Don't like the fact that you even need to have a huddle up of that magnitude late in the season. Again, we keep hoping the Sky are able to kind of put it all together and build up to this great moment, and it's becoming more and more clear that that's unlikely to happen. And again, they've played the Aces a couple times. Most games have been close. This one was not, and it's just disappointing because overall they've just kind of lost these games against these premier top teams, and they're about to start playing some of these premier top teams very, very soon, including this Thursday in the opening round of the WNBA playoffs. There were still some bright spots and performances from the Chicago Sky in this game, particularly Candace Parker. Again, Candace Parker is Candace Parker. Although this season has been a disappointment, I really don't feel like Candace Parker has been a disappointment. I feel like she has played as advertised and she plugged in very, very well with the team. And this was another game where she still had an overall pretty good game. 20 points, 4 assists, and 2 rebounds in the game. She played 23 minutes. Only player who played more was Kalia Copper, who had 26 minutes of play. So she was right up there. Kalia Copper was also another player that deserves a little bit of respect here. Obviously, I think she's gotten the respect from me, but just in general, she's been phenomenal. All-star season. And this was another positive game for Kalia Copper. She had 18 points in 26 minutes. So she led the team in minutes played and was just too shy from leading the team in scoring, which Parker did. And overall, she's been playing well. I think everyone knows this. And Candace Parker, Kalia Copper, these are players that have consistently balled out for the Sky. And they balled out on this game against the Aces, even though the score says, doesn't really matter too much because it was a blowout loss. And it was definitely a disappointing loss for the Sky. The team did have to recuperate quickly because they had another game on Sunday, ending the regular season. Chicago Sky versus the Indiana Fever. Again, the Indiana Fever had a really terrible season. They've hardly won any games, and I'm sure they really just wanted it to be over. And the Sky clinched their playoff berth. They clinched their positioning. They knew who their opponent was. There really was nothing left to play for. Luckily for those watching and those invested, the Chicago Sky did play with pride. They did play with passion, and they did play overall really well. They took the game seriously, and they finished the regular season strong. Diamond DeShields mentioned this in post-game press conference, which you can find on the Chicago Sky YouTube page. All the press conferences are usually available there, and she mentioned that they wanted to finish strong. They quickly also, I believe, mentioned that and talked about it, about they wanted to finish strong, they wanted to play hard, and they wanted to, kind of think about this as prep for the playoffs. They want to play at the top of their level and be ready for those playoff games which are coming up this week. And really they did, and Diamond DeShields specifically did. She had an amazing game. She scored 30 points, which was a career high, and she did it shooting 61% from the field. So it was absolutely amazing from Diamond DeShields. She had an incredible game. And again, with Diamond, it's been an up and down season, and I'm sure she's not happy about it. I think most of Skytown is unhappy with kind of how things have ebbed and flowed. But when she's on, it's dangerous. She's such an explosive player. It's really been incredible. And hopefully it's a sign of what she can do come playoff time, because they're going to need everybody. And speaking of needing everybody, the Sky had a really balanced attack, 4 players in double digits. So it really felt like you got, Diamond DeShields coming off the bench, dropping a 30 piece. Then you had Quigley with 15. Copper had 13. It was a really great game for the team all around. You saw really good performances top to bottom. And in a convincing 98-87 win, it was a generally comfortable game. It was never really out of hand or anything like that, but you always felt like the Sky were in the driver's seat, and they were in the driver's seat, and they were able to stay in the driver's seat and secure the victory. For the Indiana Fever, ending the season 6-26, just absolutely brutal. They only had 6 players playing. They had one person on the bench who played, and that was Jantel Lavender, who I'm sure Skytown remembers. She played with the team a couple years back, and that's just really tough. Really tough. I'm really happy for the Fever that this season is over and they can completely reset and come back next year and be better, because this was just, well, it was rough to watch. And there are definitely some talented players on the Fever, so I don't think it's necessarily just a talent issue. It's a depth issue. It's getting the right players there, putting them together, and I'm sure their roster is going to look completely different next year compared to this year. So I'm glad for them that the misery is over and they can actually start to regroup and look to compete next season. So the Fever ended 6-26. The Sky ended 16-16, right at 500. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the season that the Sky had. Now the regular season is officially done. Now, for those of you who've been on my YouTube channel, because I don't think I talked about it on the podcast, but I didn't share it like I do on the YouTube channel. My YouTube channel, when the season started, I went through the entire calendar and I predicted the results. And I had the Sky going 19-13 on the season. And obviously, if they go 16-16, they fell 3 games off of my prediction. So it was definitely a disappointing year. And I really just feel like it was accurate for them to have 16-16 as a record, because for every great example the Sky have of playing wonderful basketball, you have one where they were not playing wonderful basketball. They were playing disappointing basketball. They were getting blown out, losing close games, losing games to good teams, and beating bad teams. It was one of those years for the Chicago Sky, unfortunately. And I think there's a lot of factors to unpack on it. I don't want to fully go into kind of end of year conversation just yet, because the year is in fact not over. This is like, you're 2/3 into the movie, right? And like the big battles are coming up. Now the previous 2/3 kind of dictate what you should expect in that final quarter, but it's still, the main arc is happening. The Sky can still achieve their biggest goal, which is to win a championship. It's still possible. I know it doesn't feel like that. I'm not saying they're the favorites. They are not. At best case scenario, they're a dark horse team. That's how they've played this year. They have to own that. That's the reality of the performance. But the talent is there. You have Stephanie Dolson, Olympian, consistent starter years prior, really great player. You got 3 All-Stars. You have other players who have been All-Stars, like Diamond DeShields, on the bench. The team is absolutely stacked. We know this. But they haven't been able to consistently play at their top level against the top talent. That's been the issue with the Sky this year, and they never really got it together. Not for long enough of a string of games to really feel like that's a direct reflection of who they are. I think you've seen them in their worst, you've seen them in their best, and you find that on any given day, they're going to be somewhere in the middle. And that's the disappointing thing about this season. They weren't able to hit their best ability and their best skill consistently. So that's not their base. We know their ceiling, we know their floor, but they're going to be in the middle. And that middle is at 16-16, making the playoffs, getting a home game. We'll see what transpires after that. And there's going to be a lot of questions asked of James Wade and the players, of course, on what happened. The way things happened with Gabby Williams. Maybe having Gabby Williams this late would have been helpful, even if she missed a lot of games. We saw a lot of players missing games anyway. The whole, drafting these players, letting go these players, all that moving around was interesting. What's happened with Diamond DeShields? She went from a starter and an all-star to, on the bench, and how that role has changed. And those are questions, right? Ruthie Hebert, she got a lot of play, and then that's dwindled. She hasn't played it that well in the minutes she's had now, so maybe that is a correct assessment of where she should be. She's getting the minutes that she deserves, but I feel like I wanted to see more of her in the regular season, and I didn't get a chance to see more of her in the regular season. And these are the kinds of conversations that we're going to be having more in the offseason. So overall, I'm not going to necessarily put a grade on the regular season, but it was lackluster. It was disappointing. You were expecting better than 500. Last year, the Chicago Sky were 12-10, 2 games above 500. Years prior, they were a couple games above 500. So yes, this is definitely, I would say, the most disappointing season in the James Wade era, and that's because of the expectations, because it's been a development of talent, and because statistically, it's the worst they've been under James Wade. And, we'll see, because at the end, we know the Sky's goal wasn't necessarily just to have a good regular season. They wanted one, and everyone was hoping for one, but the goal is the playoffs. If you tell me now this team makes the, semifinals, finals, the perception of what they did and what they were able to do, it changes a little bit, because it lets you know, hey, the regular season was rough, but when push came to shove, they rose up to the challenge and they won some tough games against some top talent in playoffs. And that really does matter. And that's going to, how they finish here is going to factor in. Right now, their grade, or how you would look at the season, is pretty down, pretty low, definitely underperforming. But if they make a deep playoff run, obviously they win a championship, then you just take the whole thing and say, hey, who cares? They won. That's all I care about, right? But if they don't, it'll really depend on how far they get. I think they at least have to get out of that first round to even be considered a successful year. I think anything other than that, it's got to be disappointing. You had the worst year in the James Wade era, so that has to factor into how you evaluate things. All right, but like I said, we're going to evaluate the season being done once it's done. The regular season was disappointing, but you know what? They made the playoffs. They have a home game. Those are positives, and now it's time to do it. It's time to preview some playoff basketball. It's the moment we've all been waiting for. You wait all year for this moment. It's finally here. We're playing in the playoffs. We're playing in games that 1,000% matter. Win or go home. It's going to be exciting. I just cannot wait for Thursday's matchup. Now, for Thursday, the Sky play at 7 p.m. CT. So check your local listings if you're not in the central time zone, because that's going to change, obviously, what time the game starts. But it's the first game. It's on the WNBA app. Like I said, check your local listings. Check ESPN broadcasts in your area. The games will be on ESPN2. So be wary of that, and make sure you have all your ducks in a row so you can watch the game and you don't miss the game, because you're not going to want to miss the game. It's the Chicago Sky versus Dallas Wing. Win or go home. It's going to be awesome. I just cannot wait. I'm so excited. I'm ready to put a jersey on and run to the basket, and try to make some points. But luckily for the Sky, I will not be doing that, and I cannot do that. So I'm really excited, as you can probably tell, and you should be excited too. So make sure you don't miss it. You have a few days to kind of get yourself situated and figure out what time the game is and how you're going to watch. Now, it's going to be a tough one, because I do think the Chicago Sky are the better team. They're the more talented team. They're the home team, right? Like, the Sky underachieved and still reached this level. I feel like the Dallas Wings kind of are where they should be, which is, a fringe playoff team that was able to make it. And I still think it's going to be a tough game. Again, it's a one-game playoff, so it's not like we're playing a best-of-5 or anything of that nature. It's just one game, and in one game, any team can beat any team in the WNBA. So it makes it really hard. The margin for error is very, very slim. And the team that will win will definitely be the team that, really played up to their potential, which was something we know the Sky have had trouble with. They've had trouble playing up to their potential. They're going to have to now. There's no more time to wait and hope, and this person gets healthy, and this person gets used to playing with that person. The season's over. That's all done. It's time, and hopefully the Sky are going to show us the best version of themselves, which we've seen, when they beat the Aces, when they beat the Storm, and the worst version of themselves, when they lose to the Mystics, when they, get blown out by the Aces, things of that nature. So we're going to find out now what kind of team we have emphatically, because they're either going to rise up, play their best, get this win, or they're going to lose in an upset fashion. So I do have the Chicago Sky winning this game, surprise, surprise, but I still believe in the talent. I think when you're at home in a one-game playoff, with the best players on the court on your side, with Candace Parker, who I think is probably the best player on both teams, and you can make an argument there how valuable Vandersloot and Quickly are. I think the Sky just have a little bit too much, and that's going to rise in this kind of pressure scenario where the margins for error are slimmer, the nerves are going to be higher, the importance is going to be bigger. I think having a player like Candace Parker, that's why she's here. She really wasn't here for the regular season. We know they can have successful regular season. She's here to take this team to that next level. James Wade mentioned earlier in the year that without Candace Parker, it felt like they were knocking on the screen door, and now with Candace Parker, it feels like they're knocking on the real door, and they're like legitimately about to enter. And this is why you bring a player like that, so they can rise up in this scenario and help you get that win. And I think she's going to do it. I think she's going to be her superstar, all-star, all-NBA self. And I think she's going to be a little too much for the Wings to handle, and the Sky will win this game. Now, like I said, anything can happen, and there are some scenarios where the Sky will lose to the Dallas Wings. For example, if Arike just goes off and has an incredible game, if Alicia Gray plays well, if their bigs are able to win the rebounding battle against the Sky had a lot of trouble, getting offensive and defensive rebounds really all season long. They've been out rebounded consistently, and that's an issue. They're going to have to crash those boards in this playoff game. And the Sky's turnovers, we know their turnovers have been an issue. It's been an issue for 4 or 5 years now, where they're either leading the league in turnovers or they're flirting with leading the league in turnovers. And the games they lose, they have 15, 18, 17 turnovers, just way, way too high. To have that many turnovers in games and win, it's not going to happen. So they have to make sure they keep their turnovers down, crash the boards, and let your stars shine. It's Candace Parker time. It's Allie Quigley hitting threes time. It's Courtney Vandersloot being responsible with the ball time. Remember, the Hamby heave, I don't like to talk about it either because it brings back bad memories, but that play is a Courtney Vandersloot turnover. She's had moments, and I've seen in other regular season games where head scratchers late in games where I felt like she forced the ball or a turnover happened where she kind of caused it due to just kind of being a little overzealous. Now again, love Courtney Vandersloot. She's amazing. Wouldn't want anyone else to be the point guard. But no one is perfect, and she's not perfect either. She makes those mistakes. She makes those errors. And I remember right before the Aces game, I'll never forget it. I said that I wrote the pregame preview, and I wrote the one thing I'm not worried about is Courtney Vandersloot, because I know she's a responsible veteran and won't make a silly mistake. And those words came back to bite me, because she literally did that in the Hamby Heath play. She made an irresponsible mistake just trying to wrap things up so quickly. And that one hurt, obviously. So hopefully we don't have anything like that. And yeah, as the point guard operating the offense, it's up to you to make sure that those turnovers are down, that you're not helping cause those turnovers, that you're keeping control of the ball, making sure the offense is flowing and performing at its top ability. So that's going to be the keys to me of the game for this guy. So I'm expecting this guy to win. I think they're going to be able to pull it off, but it definitely won't be easy. There'll definitely be a lot of nerves, and anyone going to Win Trust Arena, make sure you're loud, make sure you're active, give the team the support it needs, because this is going to be a tough game. Again, it's one game elimination, so they need all the support they can get, because it would be wonderful to once again advance past that first round and reach the second round. So again, the Sky's game is on Thursday, 7 p.m. CT, and check your local listings if you're not in Central Division time, because then obviously it will be a different time for you. So I do think the Sky will win this game. I think they'll be able to pull it off. Now let's dream for a little bit. If the Sky are able to beat the Dallas Wings, when do they play next? Well, I have good news for you. We already know when that is. It would be Sunday. Bad news, we have no idea who the opponent would be. It would either be the Minnesota Lynx or the Seattle Storm. The WNBA reseeds after each round, so it's not automatically known who they will play, because we don't know if they're going to be the lower seed of the winners or the higher seed of the winners, because obviously we don't know who's won the games yet, so we can't make those predictions. But the Thursday matchup with the Dallas Wings and the Chicago Sky, immediately after the New York Liberty are going to play the Phoenix Mercury. So by the end of the night, we're going to know who advanced, and we're going to know the Sunday matchups once we see who the seeds are that advanced. We will say that the Minnesota will play the weakest seed that is available, and then Seattle Storm will play the highest seed that is available. So we do know that, we just don't know who those teams will be, because obviously the games have not been played. But if the Sky win on Thursday, they will play on Sunday, and they'll either be at Minnesota or at Seattle. So that's really interesting. That's really exciting. We'll have to wait and find out and see what happens. So hopefully the Sky can pull it off, so we can preview the Sunday game. And as far as the Sky and the Shy podcast goes, like I said, the Sky and the Shy are in playoff mode. I'm going to match that energy. I'm going to give you everything that I can. I've already done a preview on my YouTube channel of the whole first round. It's a short video, like about 5 minutes. I talk a little bit about picking the Sky. I talk a little bit about picking the Phoenix Mercury, and I'm going to do that for every single round. So I'll quickly do another video after Thursday's games, probably Friday morning. I'll have that ready, previewing the second round, which again is all happening on Sunday with those single elimination games. That's right, the WNBA, in case you forgot, has 2 rounds that are single elimination, which is really brutal and really tough. But that's why the buys you can get being 1 through 4, 1 and 2 get 2-round buys, and 3 and 4 get a 1-round buy. They're so important because it avoids you from being in these kind of situations for later or even never, with 1 and 2 waiting until we actually get into actual series before they have to play. They don't play any single elimination games, at least. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if the Sky win, which obviously we're all hoping they do. If the Sky win on Friday, I'll also be doing a podcast and previewing the Sunday games, and we're going to kind of keep doing that. I'm going to make a podcast after every victory, previewing the next opponent. At least that's what we'll do for the first round and second round if they make it that far. If they get past that, then we'll see. Maybe I'll just do a whole round preview for the semifinals, which would be really, really exciting. But again, long way to go. This is a long week, a very important week. It really doesn't get any more important until they start winning. Every week now is the biggest week of the year, which is very exciting. So hopefully we have a lot of really good podcasts coming up. Hopefully we have a lot of really great games coming up, and this is just the beginning of a deep playoff run, which I'm sure Chicago Sky wants. Skytown's going crazy for it, so hopefully that's what we see. Okay, so now you know, if the Chicago Sky win, you can expect a podcast episode on Friday or Saturday morning at the latest, but most likely Friday. And you can also expect another video on my YouTube channel, which is eCreates88. You can expect a video there as well, kind of previewing the second round games. No matter what, even if the Sky lose, I'm definitely going to still preview the second round. Obviously, the Sky and the Shy podcast, I might wait a couple of days if I know they're not going to play anymore, because not that it doesn't matter, but, you know, it won't be, we will have all season to talk about what happened this year. So if the Sky lose, I might wait and pace out that next podcast, kind of as the end of the year pod. And if they win, obviously, we're going to keep on going with fast and furious flow, because I want to make sure I'm getting that information out and we can have those conversations and dig into what we think is going to happen. So again, my keys to the game for the Sky on Thursday: they have to win the rebounding battle. They have to keep the turnovers low. And it's all about star power. I need to see a great game from Candace Parker. I need to see a controlled Courtney Vandersloot. Health-wise, the team is pretty good. Stephanie Dolson's still out with that knee. I'm hoping she gets better. I don't really know, obviously, what the odds of that are. Obviously, it's pretty concerning. They haven't used Stephanie Dolson to the capacity that they used to use her pre-Olympic break when she was starting or coming off the bench and playing a lot of minutes. Her minutes have definitely reduced. So in terms of the team's chemistry in that, it doesn't damage too much the depth chart because, like I said, she wasn't playing that much anyway. But I personally am a big Stephanie Dolson fan. I think she's a great stretch 5. So I hope she's able to play. I hope she's able to contribute. But obviously, health is number one. I want her to be fully healthy first. So we'll kind of keep an eye on it and see what the injury report is a few days prior and see if she gets upgraded potentially. But for now, she's the only player on the injury report and she is out. Everyone else is healthy. Everyone else is healthy, so the team is relatively healthy and, you know, ready to go for the playoffs. So let's see what happens, and I'll talk to you after Thursday's first round game. Go Sky.